Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Networking and Your Personal Brand, brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. I'm Kate Graham, and I serve as the Associate Director for Campus Engagement in the Alumni Relations Office, and we are thrilled you have joined us today. We will give everyone a minute or so to log on, and in the meantime, I want to provide you all with some details about today's webinar. This webinar will last approximately 45 minutes, and there will be an opportunity for Q&A towards the end of the presentation. Should you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to submit those via the chat function. This webinar will be recorded, and we will add the webinar to our Alumni Association website, and we'll also email you a direct link in the coming days. And as a reminder, before we begin, the 10th annual networking night is coming up on Thursday, November 9th. Networking events are taking place in over 47 cities worldwide, and I'll include the link to register in the chat at the end of today's webinar. Today's topic provides great advice and guidance as we prepare for networking night coming up in just 2 weeks, so be sure to register if you haven't already. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Nona King. Nona is a career coach for professionals looking to jumpstart or pivot in their careers. She specializes in career development, personal branding, and making high-impact connections by uncovering untapped potential and providing the connections to help professionals reimagine their careers and possibilities in life. Nona founded Career Catalyst Group to share her learnings and her network so that others can successfully jumpstart or pivot in their career. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nona. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Kate. Hello, everyone. It is good to be here. I can't see you right now, but it's good to be here so very much. So we're going to talk about rising above the crowd, elevating your personal brand at networking events. So before I get into it, I always like to know who I'm speaking to and who's in the room, so to speak. So there's going to be a poll, and I want you to select the statement that best describes you. So if you are a current student, select the first one, or if you've been working full-time less than 3 years, or if you've been working full-time 3 to 7 years, or full-time 8 to 14 years, or more than 15 years, please select the statement that best describes you. Okay, what is the result? I'm curious. Okay, so most of you have full-time work experience more than 15 years. That's great. Okay, and then the rest is like evenly distributed. So, okay, good. Thank you very much. You can close the poll. Okay, so I have rules of engagement, you guys. So this is going to be interactive. So I'm going to ask questions throughout the presentation because this is really more about you. And when I ask questions, I'm really encouraging you to use the chat feature and answer that question because you're going to get more out of this. Then I also want you to be an active listener. So I know that we feel that we can multitask, but I'm only asking for like 40 minutes of your time just to really focus on you. And then keep it real. I am going to keep it real. I am going to share some of the challenges that I've experienced and how I overcame those obstacles. And if you feel any desire, you can share and be real as well. Okay, so I have another poll. And I want to show this poll. I want to know if you liked networking. So select the statement that best describes you. Is it yes, I love networking and meeting new people, or no, I find networking uncomfortable and prefer other ways of connecting, or I'm not sure as I haven't had much experience with networking, or I'm not a natural networker, but I recognize its value and I try to improve. So let's see the poll results for that. I'm not a natural networker, but I recognize its value and I'm trying to improve. That's excellent. Okay, so that's like 64%, it's the majority of you. And then there's some people that just love networking. Okay, thank you. You can close the poll. Okay, so Kate shared a little bit about me, guys, but I want to share a little bit more. So I am nice to meet you. I'm happy to be here. So I am a creator of an online career coaching course called Level Up Behind the Scenes. I am the CEO of Career Catalyst Group, and I also have a nonprofit, and it's called Career Catalyst Foundation. And we offer scholarships for people who are in their early stage of their career and they're trying to establish in their career. And we offer opportunities for people to gain scholarships for career coaching. And then I also empower mid and executive level professionals with really simple steps on how to grow in their career and fast track their pay and really land roles that meet their requirements. So who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, I have over 20 years of global marketing leadership at Fortune 400 companies, including L'Oreal and Coca-Cola. And I developed this process of landing roles that I wanted or getting promoted to growing my career. And so I've taught other people how to do the same thing, including my clients. And the results have been phenomenal. My clients have increased their average rate of pay by over $40,000. And most of my clients have landed roles that they love in less than 60 days. And so I've been featured on podcasts and with different associations and work with different universities like Vanderbilt. But I'm more happy to say that my clients really excel in their careers across different industries, tech, healthcare, private equity, consumer packaged goods, just to name a few. But my life wasn't always like this. So this is a picture of me when I graduated from Vandy. I majored in music performance. I was in the Blair School of Music. I play the flute, and I minored in business. And I decided that I was going to go from straight through from undergraduate school to graduate school to pursue a master's in business administration. And I successfully earned my MBA in 2 years and found myself without a job. So I was interested in either brand management or marketing, and I couldn't find a job in either. And to be honest with you, when I look back, it was probably because I didn't have that full-time work experience. I didn't have any type of internship during college. I didn't have a network of people who could help guide me on how to establish my career. And I didn't have any personal advocates who could speak on my behalf to these hiring managers. And I didn't really understand my value. So it was difficult for me to communicate my value to other people. And my background was very different. Like this music background was very different from a marketing or brand manager career track. So I ended up moving back home to live with my parents. And I started my own marketing consulting business because I wanted to gain the skills that people said that I lacked. And so I actually did that for a couple of years and I enjoyed it, but I decided that I wanted to get back into the job search market and see if I could land a role in brand management. But this time I took a different approach. I did the work to understand really what they were looking for, and I communicated how I could add value so that it was easy for them to see, okay, this person could do the role, like she could do the role. And so this helped me to finally get into the career track that I was interested in. The process between landing my role, or actually leaving graduate school, to landing my role in marketing took me 5 years. It was a 5-year process. So I started working for L'Oreal. And I know this has nothing to do with marketing, but I just like to tell people that my face was featured on a hair color box. And I work for Coca-Cola, and I launched new products under the Simply Orange brand. I worked for Pactiv Corporation. They managed the Hefty brand, and I managed the Hefty trash bag business. I was able to travel to Hong Kong because I worked on a TV an advertising TV commercial for hefty trash bags. And this commercial featured Jackie Chan, which was awesome. And I also work for Himalaya Herbal Healthcare. They make herbal supplements and personal care products. Now, it took me a long time to get into marketing, and I loved it. But what I really, really loved was developing leaders. And this was my team that I worked with at Himalaya Herbal Healthcare. And so I grew my career to senior level executive roles, but something was missing. Fast forward to May of 2020, when the light shined bright on the racial and social injustices and the racial inequities that were being discussed in the media and being discussed among my colleagues, it forced me to really look at my life and my career as a Black woman. And I took the time to reflect on my past accomplishments, and I took inventory of my strengths and my passions and my goals. And I actually rediscovered parts of my identity that I had almost forgotten. Right. And at that point, that's when I realized that although I like marketing, I was climbing the wrong ladder of success. And so I had this strong passion to develop professionals on a full-time basis. Now, obviously, going from marketing to career coaching, there was going to be some skill gaps. So I invested in trainings and workshops and, coaching and did some pro bono work just to put my skills into practice and really close those gaps. And so I'm happy to say that now my career is aligned with my purpose. So I help professionals rediscover their strengths and their passions. And I guide them through a process to expand their network and gain those personal advocates and really help them identify roles and careers that align with their interests, align with their passions and their goals. And so I know many of you have listened in on these career webinars, or maybe you've worked with a career coach in the past. But for those of you who've never worked with a career coach, I just thought I'd add a slide because I thought it would be good for you to understand what a career strategy coach would do. So I help you rediscover your value. Sometimes when there's challenges in our lives, we forget the value that we bring to the table. And so I help you to uncover and rediscover that. And then I help you to identify and package your skills so that you can communicate to a hiring manager your transferable skills, because you have skills that are relevant no matter the industry or the career field. And then I help you to prepare for opportunities that align with your requirements. And I help you to overcome whatever challenges that you might be facing in your job search process or your career planning process, and develop a roadmap to help you plan out your career. And I always keep you accountable. And so the specific process that I use is, I guess it's a three-pronged approach to career coaching. So it's career planning. So you are encouraged to have some thoughtful reflection about yourself, your values, your past accomplishments, your strengths. We go through an exercise of identifying companies that might be worthy to be on your list. And then there's personal branding. So how do we translate your transferable skills and your value to your specific audience? And that can show up on a resume or your LinkedIn page, or developing your brand pitch, or even how you show up when you are negotiating your salary. And then high impact connections. We're building relationships. We're going to talk about networking strategies today, but also how do you prepare for interviews so we can improve on your confidence through both of those processes. And so I have a few delivery options of my services. It includes one-on-one career coaching. So for those people who may not need every piece of that process, you need something a little bit more tailored for you, we have one-on-one career coaching. And then the online training course covers everything that you would see in a one-on-one career in the one-on-one coaching, but it's self-paced and at a fraction of the cost. And then also I offer group coaching. So let's get into the agenda for today because it's very packed. So first, I want you to understand what personal branding is and why it's important for you. We're going to cover some key elements of a verbal pitch that you can develop that's going to be unique to you. There are some strategies that you can take to help you prepare for networking, as well as what you're going to do during the networking event. And then what about how you start the conversations? We're going to talk about some strategies on how to make a memorable first impression there. We're going to touch on how you leverage LinkedIn for your personal branding and networking efforts. And you will have an opportunity to continue your learning. There's an upcoming masterclass that I'm going to share more information with you about. So one of the common career development mistakes that we all make is not being intentional about building and maintaining a network, right? So my story, early in my career, I just focused on being the best employee that I could be, right? I did my work, I worked long hours, I met or beat the performance objectives stated by my manager. And I shied away from networking because I felt like it was fake and I felt uncomfortable doing it. And I didn't feel like I wanted to brown nose anybody, so I didn't do it. Honestly, I felt like you should focus on my work ethic and focus on the quality of my work to understand the value that I'm bringing to the organization. But the reality is, I really did stifle my career growth because people outside of my department, they didn't know me. They didn't know what I did. They didn't know what value I could add to the organization. So oftentimes, the people who get the job offers, the promotions, and the pay advancement are those people who build meaningful relationships and make their value known to influential people within the organization. So once I overcame that networking obstacle, sorry about that, that was a phone. So just because of that obstacle, I was able to, my career growth and my career success, it was critical to my success. And when I started making intentional efforts to build connections with people outside of my work organization, my career trajectory exponentially grew. So let me give you an example. So I was working for Coca-Cola and my career was stagnated, right? I wasn't up for any promotions. I did not know of any roles that I was interested in. I just knew I didn't like my job. So I decided to enroll in a leadership class. It was a 9-month leadership class sponsored by the local Chamber of Commerce in Houston. And there were 50 people enrolled in this class. And what we would do is we would get on a bus and we would visit different facilities throughout the county just to learn about what the county had to offer. And so I made an intentional effort to sit with someone new every time I got on that bus because I wanted to meet some other people outside of my organization. So I'm going to fast forward to the end. There was a person in my class who connected me with a lead HR person at a company that I was interested in interviewing with who had an open position. Within 2 months, I landed a role as a vice president of marketing at this new organization. Part of the reason why I was able to be successful, it started with intentional networking. So before we talk about how to network, let's understand why we don't like to network. So there were a number of you who don't like to network. So I want to make sure that we address that so we can mentally think about it so that we can address it. Okay. So let's take a couple of minutes to understand why people don't like to network. Inauthenticity. Networking might feel forced or insincere, especially if it feels transactional or self-serving. Do you feel comfortable when somebody's talking to you and you feel like they want something? Or if you are going into a networking event and you feel like you're looking for something, I mean, it doesn't feel natural for you. So it just doesn't feel authentic. Sometimes there's social anxiety. Sometimes there is pressure to make a good impression, right? Or sometimes, trying to initiate a conversation can feel overwhelming for some people. And that's okay. Maybe you fear being rejected. Like, I'm going to walk up to somebody and they're going to ignore me. Or maybe you're just an introvert, or maybe you're just shy, because introverts, they recharge by spending some time alone. And they recharge by being in quieter environments, and networking sometimes can be emotionally draining for an introvert. Or maybe some people may feel that the return on investment by doing networking activities is not worth the effort, especially if you have limited time or you prioritize other aspects of your life, right? Or maybe you had a negative past experience that's making you reluctant to move forward and engage in future networking experiences. Or maybe you're just not interested, right? Some people just prefer to focus on their work and their personal interests versus expanding their network. So I'm curious, which of these resonate with you? I want you to type that in the chat. Which of these resonate with you? Introvert, inauthentic. Yes. Lots of inauthenticity. It feels fake. It doesn't feel like me. Fear of rejection. Thank you for that. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, so let's just address it. So let's move on really quickly. So Jeff Bezos, he was the former CEO of Amazon, said, "Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room." So companies spend millions of dollars to build great brands because they know that they can command a higher price point, they can amass a loyal following, and they get the right of first consideration. Your personal brand represents your values. You can amass a loyal following as well, and you can be seen as a subject matter expert, and you can gain the right of first consideration as well. So the first step to elevating your personal brand through networking is to know you. Who are you? What are your accomplishments? What are your strengths? What are your goals? What do you enjoy doing? Right? So I find that many of the people that I end up working with, they don't like networking because they start to question their abilities and they question the value that they can bring in a networking situation because they feel so beat down by the losses that they've experienced in their career, whether they didn't get promoted or maybe they don't feel like they're at the level where they should be when they compare themselves to their peers. Please don't compare yourselves to your peers. Or maybe they're just not happy, but they don't know what they want to do next, right? So I had a client who was in the same role. He was a mental health clinician. He was in the same role for about 7 years. And he knew that he was underemployed, underpaid, and he knew that his career opportunities were very limited. And so he had interest in pivoting from healthcare to the tech industry. But because of his stagnated career, he doubted that it could happen, right? And so then we went through this process of rediscovering his strengths and his passions and his past accomplishments. And the purpose was really to build his self-confidence, right? And then I also encouraged him to start reaching out to people via LinkedIn, to reach out to people that were in the tech industry, to request informational interviews, and really, build his network outside of what, the healthcare industry. He was surprised when people said, yes, I will conduct an informational interview with you. Or he was surprised when people started referring him to people within their network. And he was surprised when people would say, why don't you share your resume with me? I have an open position I think you would be great for. So it took him about 6 months, but he ended up landing a senior level role at Google, and he continues to thrive to this day. And so part of the reason why he found success is because he rediscovered and he rebuilt his confidence. Again, we need to build ourselves up. We need to remind ourselves about the great things that we have going for us and about us before we start networking with anybody else. Okay, so we're going to go through a short exercise because these are some questions that you might be prepared to answer about yourself. And so I want you to use the chat feature. Tell me, what do you like to do for fun? What do you like to do for fun? I'm going to be looking in the chat. I want to know, what do you like to do for fun? Go hiking, travel, me too. Write music, travel, cross stitch, travel, try new restaurants, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, good. I have another question for you. The next question is, what problem or gap do you see in the community that you have passion in solving? What problem or gap do you see in the community that you have passion in solving? So I'm curious. It makes you kind of think a little bit, but I want to see what you have to say. Poverty, the energy crisis, sustainable, affordable, healthy food, a lack of third places or third world, food insecurity, spaces. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Love it. All these issues that you all are typing so fast. This is excellent. Okay. So you should have answers to a number of different questions. And I have some that others that you might want to consider. What attracted you to the field or career or position that you're currently in, or what projects or initiatives are you currently working on that excite you? What strengths or talents are you known for among your friends and family? What are you looking forward to this year? Or what are you looking forward to next year? Right? So ask these questions of yourself. You could also use these questions when you're at a networking event, whether you're speaking to a group of people or if you're speaking to somebody one-on-one. So you can take a picture of those questions, but they're just starter questions. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to shift gears and we're going to quickly talk about a verbal pitch. So a verbal pitch is a short speech. It's aimed to capture your listener's attention, maybe generate some interest, and share a little bit of information about you. So a verbal pitch could include some of these elements. It can include what you're doing currently, what you've learned, or maybe some information about your background, what you're passionate about and your motivations, or what you're looking to do next. So here's an example of my verbal pitch. Hi, I'm Nona. I'm a career growth coach, and I had an impactful and fun career in brand marketing, but I wanted to close the knowledge gap experienced by underrepresented communities when it comes to career development and network connections. I coach early to seasoned professionals with practical tools and access to my network connections to help them secure and navigate career opportunities. Now I get to align with my passions and knowledge of personal branding to growing future leaders and catapulting careers. What about you? So this verbal pitch could be used in a variety of personal and professional settings. I could share this with potential clients to promote my services, or if, let's say that I wanted to work for somebody else, like as a career coach, I could say this when they ask, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Or maybe during personal networking. My goal is to just create a memorable impression that initiates some meaningful conversation. Okay. Now, I want to switch over to what do you do, preparation strategies to help you to prepare before the networking event as well as during the networking event. So we're going to talk through 6 preparation strategies. So the first one is, first you define your objectives, research the event and key contacts, prepare your elevator pitch, prepare conversation starters, practice active listening, and then there's the post-event follow-up. Let's first talk about defining your objectives. So you should be clear on what is your objective? What are your goals for even attending the networking event? So maybe you want to have certain people that you want to meet. Maybe there's specific people that you want to meet, or maybe you want to explore potential collaboration opportunities, or maybe you want to just gain some industry insight. So when you have a clear purpose, it's going to help you focus your efforts and make the most of your time at the event. So define, what are you looking for? Maybe the other is, I'm looking for a job. Be clear on it, okay? And it's going to help you direct how you approach things. The second thing is to research the event and the key contacts. So let's first talk about researching the event. So gather some information about the event, anything. Maybe it's the agenda, maybe it's who are the participating organizations, who's going to be there in terms of the attendees. So also understand who is the target audience that this conference or this event is going to attract. What type of professionals are likely to attend? Because this knowledge is going to enable you to tailor your approach and tailor your conversations accordingly. So I have a conference that I will be attending next weekend, and it's in the asset management space. So when I'm going to do my homework and learn more about who's going to be attending and get more information about the event itself, so that I can be prepared with the type of questions that is going to be helpful for myself. Then also researching contacts. So if this is available, some networking events or conferences will give you an attendee list. I encourage you to read up on these people, look on LinkedIn and find out a little bit more about their background, or maybe learn about their current projects and their areas of interest, because what you're looking for is some opportunities for common ground. So if you have something that you can relate to somebody, some commonalities, then you can initiate a conversation around those commonalities that makes it more natural for you. And then prepare your elevator pitch. So we've already talked about a verbal pitch. It's a great starter, but when you want to develop an elevator pitch, it should be no more than 30 seconds. So it should be like very, very short, right? So you can start with the verbal pitch and start narrowing it a little bit more. And so this pitch, this elevator pitch, should communicate who you are, what makes you stand out, what do you do, what makes you unique. And once you've created your pitch, you should practice it, practice delivering it so that you sound confident and it sounds natural for you, so that you can make a memorable impression. And then conversation starters. So you should think about some opening lines or some icebreakers that you might want to bring up or ask during a conversation. This could be something like asking somebody about their background, or maybe what current projects that they're working on, or maybe discussing some industry trends or some industry challenges that they may be facing. And again, you can use some of those questions that I shared with you all earlier, because when you're prepared with some conversation starters, it's going to help alleviate that initial awkwardness. Okay. Now, while you're at the event, it is important to practice active listening. So when you are attentive and you're actively listening during conversations, you're going to cultivate a genuine curiosity about the person that you are speaking to. So I would love for you guys to put in the chat, how do you know when somebody's actively listening to you? Give me some examples. How do you know if somebody's actively listening to you? Asking genuine follow-up questions, definitely eye contact, the body language, right? The body language. They're asking follow-up questions when they ask for further, yes, they're nodding, yes. So good. I learned you have one mouth and two ears. Stick to that ratio. I love that. I love it. And your facial responses, right? So when you give your full attention, you pay attention to nonverbal cues. If you don't see their eyes looking at somebody else, they're looking at you, they're asking questions, they're avoiding distractions. Yes. So you got to practice that active listening, because that'll show that you have genuine interest in what they're talking about. And you're starting that connection. And then after the networking event, definitely plan for what are you going to do afterwards. So you're not going to connect with everybody, and it's okay. But when you do have some promising connections, you can consider how you're going to maintain and nurture that relationship, that initial relationship that just started. Exchange some contact information, or schedule before you leave that room. Schedule when you get on your calendar and find out, okay, when are we going to have a call, or when are we going to have a meeting? Because I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. I want to have a follow-up, because this is a good connection. It's okay to do that. Remember, when you prepare before a networking event, you're going to be more focused. You're going to be better equipped with developing meaningful conversations and meaningful connections, and you're going to showcase your personal brand more effectively. Okay. Let me also say this really quickly. I did this starting out in my career, and many of you might experience this as well. When you meet somebody, hello, my name is Nona. What do you do? Okay, what is your name? Bob. Okay, nice to meet you. You want to exchange business cards, and then you move on. That's not building connection. All you know is his first name, and you may have to remind yourself by looking at the card. So you're trying to develop more meaningful conversations. Okay, simple strategies to initiate those conversations. And again, these are very simple strategies. The first one, be approachable. How many of you would be interested in walking up to somebody who has a frown on their face, their arms are crossed, and they're not smiling? I would guess not many of you, right? So present yourself in a friendly, open manner. What do I mean by that? Smile. Make eye contact, right? These nonverbal cues tell people I'm open to talking, right? People initiate conversations with folks that are more approachable. Then be observant. Like, this is an area where introverts do well, right? What's important is to pay attention to the room. What's going on in the situation? How are people interacting? Maybe identify somebody that's not talking to someone and go up to them and initiate a conversation with them, right? Or let's say that you're in a room and it seems like everybody else knows each other. Walk up to one of the groups, introduce yourself, and start listening. Listening for shared interest, listening for shared experiences so you can establish rapport. Like, again, we're trying to discover some common ground so we can create a bond and start making conversation with and then make them the conversations more meaningful. And then be curious. Ask questions. Now, I wouldn't ask like you're like interviewing the people, like ask questions that you really want to know about. Right? And then ask questions that make you think about, how am I going to serve this person? How can I help this person? Right? So instead of talking to somebody thinking or approaching a conversation, thinking about what you're going to get out of it, maybe if you focus on their needs and determine if there's a way that you can help them. So for example, if you ask questions, maybe there's a way for you to connect them with somebody in your network that you know, or maybe you have access to some industry information that you can share with them, right? So when you have this service-minded approach to networking, you reframe the process to not networking, but relationship building. And for the person that is listening to you or conversing with you, this is going to show that you have a genuine interest in what they're saying, and you're going to make a positive and lasting impression on the people that you meet. And then lastly, be authentic, right? Be yourself. Let your personality shine through. You are enough. You're more than enough, right? And so remember that people they notice when somebody's fake. Right? And so people appreciate authenticity too, and it builds trust and it builds that connection. Okay. So I know we're talking about networking in in-person situations, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least touch on LinkedIn and how you can leverage LinkedIn for your networking efforts as well. So really quickly, here's just some stats that I thought was interesting to share. 90% of recruiters use the platform to find candidates. 30,000 companies use it to recruit and post over 3 million jobs every month. 3 people are hired every minute on LinkedIn. There's 300,000 remote job postings in the US alone. Almost all the Fortune 500 companies use LinkedIn to recruit and use LinkedIn to network. And there are decision makers on LinkedIn. There's 90 million senior level executives and 65 million decision makers on LinkedIn. And this stat came from LinkedIn. Each connection that you make introduces you to an average of 400 new people. So LinkedIn is valuable for you. It's a powerful job board where you can search jobs. You can search jobs by keywords. You can search jobs by locations. You can even search for upcoming networking events, right? And if you have like a website and you have your LinkedIn page, if I were on Google and I typed your name, 9 times out of 10, your LinkedIn page is going to come up first before your personal website. So it's very important to ensure that your LinkedIn page represents your story in a strong way, like who you are, what you're passionate about, the results you've accomplished, what makes you unique, all those type of things. And then you can research companies and apply to jobs without alerting your current coworkers. And you can gain access to different salary options. You can keep tabs on industry trends and reports, and it is a great opportunity to network. So how do we amplify our network using LinkedIn? Okay, so when you meet someone at an in-person event, the easiest way to nurture and build that connection is to connect on LinkedIn. So I told you before, each connection made introduces you to an average of 400 new people. That's what LinkedIn says. So for example, when you have this new connection, if your new connection interacts with one of your posts, then your post and you get exposed to their network, right? Or if your new connection engages with someone's post that they're connected with, you'll get exposed to even more people. So it just continues to amplify your networking opportunities and people, you being exposed to more people. And then you should connect with as many people as you can on LinkedIn, like those offline people, the people in your family, your friends, your colleagues, professors. Connect with them on LinkedIn, right? Because you never know who your contacts might be connected to that you might want to connect with in the future. And then our Vandy alumni network is phenomenal, right? So it's a rich source of networking opportunities. And it's a great way to break the ice because you already have a commonality. Y'all went to the same school, right? So, and a lot of times, even though people might be busy, a lot of times when people, if you went to the same college, they're more than willing to help somebody that went to the same school with them because, y'all have a commonality. So don't forget about that. And you can leverage your first degree connections to introduce you to somebody in their network. So, okay. So for example, let's say that you have a first degree connection with a person named Ralph. And after reviewing Ralph's connections, you notice that he has a first degree connection with a woman named Nyambi, and you want to meet her. You can ask Ralph, could you connect me with Nyambi? Well, the likelihood of Nyambi responding in a positive way is higher because she's been introduced to you through a trusted source, right? Who is Ralph. And then I cannot stress enough informational interviewing. So there might be certain companies that you're interested in or certain career fields that you might be interested in. You can find people who work at the same company that you're looking for, that you have interest in, or the career field, and you can send them a direct message and maybe introduce, say, who you are, why you're reaching out to them, and you're interested in conducting an informational interview. Would you be willing to talk with me? I told you the story of one of my clients who now works at Google, and he pivoted from healthcare. You can reach out to people that are not your first degree connections. Okay. So I just want to leave you guys with a quote just to get you to start thinking. This is by Meg J. She says, "It's the people we hardly know and not our closest friends who will improve our lives most dramatically." Something to think about. Okay, so I want to offer you guys something. I know I'm running out of time, but I would love to help you guys. I'll offer a free 20-minute career direction consultation. I'll assess your LinkedIn profile. I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to improve it, maybe give you some clarity on next steps. You can just scan that QR code to schedule time with me, or you can enter the URL. And I do have a masterclass that will be taking place on Monday, so you can learn more on how you're going to rediscover your excellence and really uncover what hiring managers want and how you can decode a job description to find out exactly what people are looking for. And I have some tips and tricks that I can help you with to improve your professional online presence and really help you to boost your confidence and help you to stand out from the competition. So this masterclass is this Monday at 12 noon. All you have to do is email me, and I would be happy to send you the Zoom information. And so just to remind you, I have the career direction consultation and the masterclass coming up. So I'm ready for some questions whenever you're ready. Oh, so the QR, yes. So the QR code is right here, Brian. Thank you so very much for joining. So I don't see any questions. Monique or Kate? Okay, here's a question. Here's some questions coming up. This is great. Okay. So what we have is, what do you recommend saying to people when asking for informational interviews? Good question, Kelly. Thank you for asking that question. So before you reach out to somebody for an informational interview, I think you should do your research first on why you want to have an informational interview with that person in particular. So take some time, maybe read some of their posts, some of the things that they may be interested in, or just something about their background. So, hi, my name is Kelly. I noticed that you are a subject matter expert in this particular area and would love to learn more about your background, or I want to learn more about the company where you work for. I have interest. Would you be able to take 10 to 15 minutes, or take a 10 to 15 minute coffee break or chat with me? So that's how I would approach it when you directly send a message. Tell them who you are, why you're connecting with them, or why you're talking to them. Hopefully that helps. How do you address career gaps? So it depends on why there is a career gap, or what you were doing during that career gap or that employment gap. So you have to ask yourself, what were you doing? Were there some things that you accomplished? Were there some skills that you learned? Like, what did you learn from it? Was a reason for it? Sometimes there's a career gap because you might have taken time away to help a loved one who might have had some health challenges. And there's some things that you learn. Everything that you do when you wake up and walk out the door, you are exercising skills. So we got to understand, what were you doing? And it depends, again, what you were doing and how long that career gap was, and the whys behind it. And then we can craft a story for that. Let me know if that does not answer your question. Will we have the recording of this call? Yes, you will get the recording of the call. You're welcome, Miles. Thank you so very much for calling in. Thank you, Kelly. How do you recommend ending the conversation with someone at a networking event, particularly if you don't have much in common? You can just say, that's a good question, actually. This has been great. I love it. I would love to, that's a good question. I would say, let's meet some other people, or, maybe there's somebody that I can help you meet somebody in the room, or, it's okay to just say, it was nice meeting you. Thank you for this time. Let me know if I can help you in any way. Let me know if that answers your question, Camille. Okay. You will have access to the slides through the recording. Any advice on how to get past cultural barriers that may exist? Very good. Thank you, Andrea. So it depends on what the cultural barrier is. So if it's, and I don't know if you want to be more specific, but one thing that is critical to networking is communication. And so, for example, if there's a language barrier or something dealing with cultural norms, my biggest recommendation is, first, know your strengths, know your accomplishments, know your goals and your passions. And if you find that there are some gaps, whatever that gap might be, you should close those gaps through education, like going to a class, going to a training. If the cultural, if there's cultural barriers, and again, I'm just guessing here, but like, let's say that you're new to the United States and this American way of life is a little different for you, I would continue to practice the networking, find organizations where you find a lot of more people with similar shared interests or similar experiences or similar backgrounds as you. Maybe you could tap into someone who has been there where you are, and they can give you some thoughts and ideas or connect you with someone who could help you or help build your network in a particular area. And quite honestly, there are events, there's organizations, conferences that really attract a diverse, multicultural audience, an audience that the environment is supportive. Find those type of organizations, because it's all about building relationships, finding shared interests, finding commonality. And even if you just go to a regular, career field, career, not fair, but like an industry professional conference, you're trying to focus on the shared interests, the shared goals, and go from there. Hopefully that answered your question. I actually described your experience. You're welcome, Andrea. Wait. Okay, 2 more questions. Okay, so let me see. Okay, Nicole, you said, after connecting with someone, how often should you keep in touch with them? So it depends on the person, but I am an advocate of following up every 3 months or so to say, to ask them how they're doing, how is it going with whatever goal that they set or whatever challenge that they were dealing with, maybe share an update about you. And I actually would, with the people with promising connections that you've had, maybe add that in a spreadsheet so you know what the conversation was about, and put a note on the spreadsheet on when to reach out to people, because it's good to be intentional with your networking. And then Hunter, at what stage of networking or job search do you address your career gap? That's a good question, Hunter. So I wouldn't remember, the networking is relationship building. Your goal might be to look for a job, but let's try to, at the foundational level, try to build relationships and learn about these people, right? So your career gap may not be applicable for networking. Your story, who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about, is the career gap that important to talk about in your elevator pitch? I would guess not. But in the career gap piece, you should be prepared before you have that interview to know be prepared just in case they asked a question about that career gap and what you were doing and what did you learn and why was there a career gap and why are you looking to, move on, or what the next stage in your life is. The more you are clear about what you want to do, it's going to be easier for that narrative that you have. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so very much. I think I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Nona. We really appreciate it. This was fantastic. And thank you to everyone that submitted a question and engaged. This was so wonderful. Like I put in the chat and like Nona mentioned, this recording will be emailed to everyone that registered. So you'll receive this recording via email in the coming days, and we will also post it on our website. So be on the lookout for that. Also, I included a link to our event survey, as well as a link to the Networking Night homepage. If you haven't registered, be sure to do that. Networking Night is coming up in just a couple of weeks, November 9th. So we're really excited. And Nona, again, thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
hope to see you all again soon at another event.
Yes, and if you're in Houston, hopefully I will meet you at the Houston event on November
Yeah,
9th.
that's right. That's right. Thank you so much, everyone, and hope you all have a wonderful Thursday.